We're going to be talking a lot in this interview about the differences between North Korea and the United States and Western countries. But I want to start off with talking about some of the similarities. Have you noticed any similarities whatsoever when you came to the US, when you came to the West, out of North Korea?
I know, I think this is very unexpected part of my experience being in the free world is that, of course, we would not deny that North Korea is almost like different planet. It's really, especially when it comes to things, like the physical things, there's no internet in North Korea. There's no 24 hours electricity in North Korea, right? So those kind of things, we cannot find a similarity. But when it comes to people's behavior, I saw some similarity, and that made me really concerned, especially when I was attending university in New York City, Columbia University. I remember growing up as a younger, the first thing my mom told me was not to even whisper because the birds and mice could hear me. And she said, most dangerous thing in my body that I had was my tongue. It wasn't just gonna kill me only. If I said the wrong thing, it was going to kill the 3 generations of my family with me. And going to Columbia University, I also learned that in America, you can get cancelled, you get censored, you get penalized, you're called Nazi and bigots if you do not have the political correctness. And that really broke my heart because for me, safe place meant where people can express ideas, especially in college campuses where you can be stupid and you learn, and by discussing, by talking to people. But of course, at Columbia, in the name of safe place, they tell you the things that you cannot talk about. And also, the sentiment when it comes to hating white men, it was exactly the same. In North Korea, the regime says, oh, we are poor because of American bastards. We are poor because, we don't have electricity because of American bastards. Like American bastards was one word. Now, studying at Columbia, Africa was distorted because of white men. The world is having all these problems because of white men. Like every single thing, the narrative was so similar that I was thinking, am I in North Korea's classroom or like actually in America right now?
Do you truly think that America is a free society?
So I think one of the interviews I talked about, like North Korea is not even this crazy, right? And especially I was comparing the work culture. Before the class, in this like 120 people lecture hall, everybody says, the first thing they ask is like, oh, give us your pronouns. And then some people are gender fluid. So that morning they might identify themselves like a girl, but afternoon they're gonna be a boy. So instead of me trying to learn who this person as a character, all my energy is being spent on learning their pronouns in the classroom so I don't look like a bigot. I don't look like inclusive person enough. And so that was when I was like, even North Korea don't do this stuff. Like people now identifying as a African American or identify as a Korean even, right? It's just the chaos in what is true is so lost that nothing is true anymore. So I think this is why I thought I was like, this is worse than North Korea. At least in North Korea, we know what women is, what men is. And this is like, now I'm denying it. Just the fact that how society is obsessed about these things. And that's when I realizing not having problem is actually a problem. Because these people do not actually having a problem. They are creating problems and to be offended and to think they are the victims. And the people were saying at Columbia, all these privileged kids, right, going to Ivy League school saying, I'm so systemically oppressed. And I was like, people actually oppressed, don't know if they're oppressed. That's like, if the fact that you're oppressed, you're not oppressed. And I think this is like the education in the West, especially the Western, like the European countries are doing this to children, telling them how victims they are. They do not teach them to self-responsibility. And frankly, I don't think they even know the history of socialism or communism. And they know Hitler, they know Nazi Germany, right? But Mao killed 60 millions of human beings under Communist Party. Stalin, nothing killed more than communism ever did. But most people do not know that. And I think that's why education failed them. And these young people have no clue, and all they're blaming is this freedom. They hate to be free in this country, and they want to be not free in some way. Voluntarily, they want to give up their own individual liberty in some ways. The expectation of these people is that they do not have any resilience, and they do not understand how hard life is on earth. Like, our ancestors' life was so much harder than even my life, right? They made so much sacrifice, so much hard work to carry this life to next life, and that's why I always know that life is a gift. For me, it's that I don't even blame them. I think their system, the education they got was very inaccurate, and they learned how not to be resilient, but they learned how to be just blaming other people and not being responsible for their behaviors as individuals. Now we are going against all the traditional norms, and there's no more manner, there's no more like this like class and grace, and just every become anything. And it's okay. I respect individuals as long as they don't harm other people. They have freedom to say I'm a Korean. It's okay. Like, they have a freedom of speech. They have a right to say it. It's not they're harming anybody. It's okay for me that. But I think just like I'm worried that what this generation do now with this kind of there's no more wrong and bad. Nothing is like clear. Everything is blurry. And this culture, especially Marxism, is destroying every other conventions that we knew was a fact, destroying that. Life in North Korea is just complete terror, that the things that you say gonna get killed, right? I mean, the fact is, it's really funny. In the past, people were saying, like, are North Koreans dumb or something? Why do they not rise up? Why there's no revolution? Asking me, right? And then now I'm asking, you get censored on like Twitter, you get censored on this or big tech media. If you say the wrong thing, you lose your job. And honestly, frankly, do you really say that nobody's censoring ourselves right now? We all do censor ourselves here. And why? The consequences of us demanding freedom of speech is a lot lower than North Koreans demanding their freedom. But that is how effective fear is. The fact that you're gonna get called as a like Nazi and racist and losing your job is enough to silence the majority of people. But especially think about killing your children, your mother, your family members if you do the like dissent, right? So North Korea is being ruled by complete terror. We are regularly watch public execution. Your neighbors disappear regularly, and people on starvation mode on purpose by the regime. Like, the people like I do know, they're all supporting this social work thing, or even supporting democratic socialism in America. I truly believe most of them have good intentions, right? They do not want people to suffer. But the thing is, the world is not those like perfect world, everybody born with equal talent, ability to think, equal capacity to, process information. It's just nature of life. There's a hierarchy, and we have variations. So that's, I think, what is lacking, that when you try to artificially make everything the same, that is like wrong. It's so messed up. Like, I really try my best to be hopeful every single day, but that is in so many ways, especially education with the young children is so bad that I do lose hope, and I'm like afraid to send my son to like normal public school. Like, I'm like, maybe I need to really homeschool him at this point.